Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama-shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 85, entitled Lord Krishna instructs Vasudeva and retrieves Devaki's sons, and verses 11 to 13. I'll read the translation to Sanskrit together and then the translation. Bhutanamasi bhutadirindriyanam cha taijasa vaikariko vikalpanam pradhanam Nashvare naishvareshu iha bhaveshu tadasi tvam manashvaram yatha dravya vikareshu dravyamatram nirupitam sattvam rajastamaiti gunas tadvrittayascha त्वयि अद्धा ब्रह्मणि परे kalpita yoga mayaya. Translation and purport by the disciples of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. You are false ego in the mode of ignorance, which is the source of the physical elements, false ego in the mode of passion, which is the source of the bodily senses, false ego in the mode of goodness, which is the source of demigods, and the unmanifest total material energy, which underlies everything. You are the one indestructible entity among all the indestructible things of this world, like the underlying substance that is seen to remain unchanged while the things made from it undergo transformations. The modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, together with all their functions, become directly manifest within you, the supreme absolute truth, by the arrangement of your Yoga Maya. Purport. Vasudev's description of how the Supreme Lord expands himself into the products of the three material modes may possibly be misunderstood to imply that he is touched by the modes or even that he is subject to destruction. To negate these misunderstandings, Vasudev states here that the three modes and their products function by the arrangement of the Lord's creative energy, Yogamaya, who is always completely under his control. Thus, the Lord is never tainted in the least by any material contact. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gauram Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langete Giram Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Devatara Parama Krishna begging the blessings of all the devotees assembled. Adipurush Prabhu, Arjun Prabhu, and everybody else, please bless me so that I can share something which is pleasing to Krishna and also is inspiring to all of our devotion service. And here in this chapter, it's exciting that we have come towards the end of the 10th canto. Just we didn't even realize, like over my years and months, it's been a quick journey through the 10th canto, I would say. It just feels like we just started in the beginning of the 10th canto. It's already 85th chapter. And this chapter from here, it's slightly technical, this first part of the chapter. So I'm pretty sure you're all following regularly. And there are various prayers that Vasudev uh, ji offered to Krishna. And in continuation with the series of his prayers, so we are seeing these three prayers, and these are also very technical. And I'm not sure how much technicality we need to get into in the given time. The 11th verse speaks about um, for speaks about basically how Krishna is the underlying factor beneath everything, especially uh, when you say everything in the material context, in the context of the material world, everything is created from the whole of material creation begins, of course, with pradhan and mahatattva. And however, mainly when the mahatattva is in the mode of ignorance, and first in the mode of goodness, then in the mode of passion, then in the mode of ignorance. So when the false ego is in the mode of ignorance, that's when actually material creation begins. So that's what is being indicated here, that how uh, false ego in the mode of ignorance, which is the source of physical elements, within that also, whatever is a little bit mode of passion is there. From that, the bodily senses come, and the little mode of goodness from which the demigods, the prototype demigods, they all come. And then the unmanifest total material energy, which is the pradhan. Beyond all of these things, Krishna is the source. So the whole idea of the prayer is that Krishna is the source of everything in the material creation. Of course, everything. Specifically in regards to the material creation, Krishna is the underlying source, even of the pradhana, because people may consider Big Bang that everything comes from a singular mass, and when the explosion happened, all the material creation came from that singular mass. However, here that pradhan, we are going beyond that pradhan. Even if you assume that they are speaking about the pradhan as the state before the Big Bang, it's not true. But still, assuming like that, still there is a fact, there is a person beyond or behind that as the source of that pradhan also. That's what Vasudeva is indicating, that Krishna is that underlying source. And we can also interestingly note that how all the material creation has come from false ego. That is uh, that's the underlying factor for all of the material creation. We can imagine if something is created from especially false ego in the mode of ignorance, then all of material creation is that's the predominant mode and the most strong factor. Because in the Vedic creation, everything, the material part of the Vedic creation, everything begins with the false ego in the mode of ignorance. And that is why from false ego comes all the elements, the senses, even the demigods. And our whole material story begins with the same false ego, that I am this body and I am what I own, I am what others think of me. So that's our story of life when in material consciousness also begins with the same false ego, but it is reflected in our body through the um, subtle false ego. Though Krishna has a better story for us, we are always thinking, oh, I'm this body and I'm what I own, or I'm what others think of me. Krishna has a better story for us to tell. Krishna says, you are mine. Mamevamsho jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamevamsho jiva, and you are my part and parcel. You are mine, and your spirit soul. And literally, Krishna is saying, you are my child. You're actually loved. However, we are thinking everything through the projection of our false ego, through grabbing things in this world, and that is our main identity. We would like to be separate from Krishna in our material consciousness. However, Krishna is extending his compassion and reminding us, no, you're not separate from me. You're actually part of me. So in that way, Krishna has, though he has a different story, our false ego would like to actually have a different story for our lives. So bhakti is just not about giving up the world, and it's we are not a gyanis who are focused on just demonizing the world and giving up the world. Bhakti is not about that. Bhakti is giving out this false story that we have built around this false ego. So we are not our positions. We are not. That's why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also mentioned this verse, and this is counted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says, "Naham vipro na cha narapatir napi vaishyo na shudro naham varni na cha grihapatir na vanasto etirva kintu prodhyan nikila paramanand purna amritabdir gopi bhartaho padakamalayur dasa dasa anudasa." So this verse is usually chanted before the deity worship also, as Manasa Puja, as fixing one's identity before entering into the altar and serving Radha Muralidhar. That I'm not doing this because I'm so and so. I'm I'm only the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of uh, the Lord who's the Lord of the gopis. So we have so many stories, we have so many identities, and everything in this world we try to do is coming from some kind of an identity. Anything that we attempt in this world, it has its seed. Some the motivation is coming from something. It should be either false ego or true ego. It cannot be anything else other than that. So all our motivations are coming from identity, and that identity could be purely situated as being Krishna's servant, as a servant of the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas, or we are coming from a place of I want to prove myself great, and I want to show the world what I can do, what I can accomplish, how great am I. So it can come from anything, but it's not like a real black and white kind of a shade. As a practicing devotee, it little bit mixes. We also love Krishna, we want to serve Krishna, we want to really be of a servant of the devotees. At the same time, we also have a little bit of the feeling that everybody should acknowledge my contributions, should actually uh, appreciate my there is it's a natural human feeling to have a need for appreciation and acknowledgement. But however, when that becomes the underlying motivation, then it becomes very difficult to uh, do our service without being disturbed. And what is the what do you call what is the scale that to say that our services go are not are more in the side of I want to please Krishna and that's all it matters. It becomes more and more stable. We become more and more stable in bhakti. That's a sign that our service is also becoming more and more grounded in the identity of being a servant of Krishna. So false ego can be is the underlying uh, foundation for material creation, and is also the underlying identity for material life. So the more that uh, that great foundation is transformed spiritually. So am I living to prove, or am I living to serve? So that's the kind of the transformation that happens with the ego. When it is false ego, pretty much everyone in this world is living to prove something. But when the ego is purified, then we are actually living to serve. So we make the place is called Bhakti Center. But most of the time, the false ego will make us the center, not even Radha Muralidhar. So, so false ego tells that we are the center. But in Bhakti Yoga, constantly Krishna is reminding, okay, you are not the center. Actually, Krishna is the center. That's what is being, we are being reminded here by Vasudeva and Srila Prabhupada and all the devotees. Because it's very difficult without having any other identity other than Krishna's servant or the servant of the servant of the servant of the devotees. It's a very high range. It's a very difficult thing to really emulate. It's simple as well as difficult. I remember once there was a visiting sannyasi in this temple that I was living, and he was sitting on the Vyasasan and speaking. He was giving his Sunday feast. There were literally 1,000 people at least, and there was this one of our senior devotees. He's quite a famous preacher, and he's such a nice gentleman, and comes from a very orthodox family, and very clean, very Brahminical. And this visiting sannyasi suddenly pointed out to him and said, "Why would you put your finger into your nose? Just go wash your hands." Imagine, like, there is 1,000 people audience, and then a visiting speaker suddenly just points towards someone's direction and says, "Oh, why would you put your fingers into your nose? Just go, get up, wash your hands, and come." And no one wants to actually assume that it is them, because he's just generically showing a finger toward their direction. It's not very clear who exactly he is telling. So everybody is thinking and praying that it is not them. And this devotee was very sure that it is not him, because he didn't do that actually. So he was just sitting there, and the sannyasi started becoming actually very heavy. He started saying, I'm telling you, why wouldn't you get up? You go, it's not clean. You just have to go and wash your hands and come. And no one really wants to take it on themselves. And everybody is looking around. After a few, like 30 seconds, 40 seconds, it became very apparent that uh, the speaker is pointing towards this devotee. And he was completely, he couldn't believe, but because he didn't do it. Actually, it was not him. But it became so clear that he's not going to escape this, because he's very pointed and all the 1,000 people are looking at him. So the devotee sitting next to him told, "Probably Maharaj is pointing at you. Please get up and go." He says, "No, I didn't do it. I did not do this. Why should I?" And then he says, "It's not about whether you did or not. He is clearly pointing at you, and it's going to get heavy. Just leave." So after back and forth, eventually he just gets up and he left. And after a few minutes, he came back and sat at the back of the temple. And he was completely heartbroken, because all his people that he is cultivating and preaching to, his mentoring and his friends, everybody is sitting. And then, like, this visiting Maharaj just like told him, "Oh, you put your fingers into your nose, just go and clean your hands and come." It's such a silly thing. It may not be like a very serious, but imagine, like, before 1,000 people, not just any random 1,000 people, before them you're being like respected, and you have a certain identity. And it was very, very hard. And he didn't even do it he was completely honest, he didn't even do it. And after the whole lecture, he was so tormented, he was so affected. And then one devotee comes and tells him, "Prabhu, I'm extremely sorry. It was me who was sitting behind you. When you actually bent down, I was actually doing that, and I think Maharaj saw. And when you actually afterwards you came up, and he assumed that it is you. I'm extremely sorry." And this devotee couldn't, like, did not know what to say, but he was very affected. And then I remember, then he was sharing this story in a particular class. After a few years, he was saying that he went to his mentor, and he was literally in tears, that why would this Maharaj do this to me? Like, it's just so disrespecting, and it's just like so uh, embarrassing before so many of my mentees and so many other devotees. It just like became so difficult. And he said, "Okay, means maybe the Maharaj was wrong, but Krishna has some reason for making this happen. So please see the good in this situation and see what is Krishna trying to tell you." And it wasn't easy for that devotee at that moment. After a few years, he was giving a class, and he was sharing this, that how that through that whole experience, he thought that he was just trying to build an identity, and that Krishna just took away that identity in one simple interaction. and how much it affected him, and it took so much strength for him to think. And it's not just his identity as a preacher, as someone who's being respected by so many people. He actually had to step up and say, okay, I'm a servant of the devotees. And even if for good or bad, if a devotee actually deals with me in a certain way, still Krishna has some reason for this. For him to just come to that conclusion and live by that, it took so much character. He said, I would not have developed as much character by 1,000 people glorifying me and appreciating me, but rather in that one single moment, single interaction, I was forced to actually grow up and take shelter of a better principle or a bigger principle. So in our life, we may be doing so many things, and mercifully, Krishna may send a, a crisis through our life. And we may be wondering, I did everything perfectly. I've been such a, I've been trying to be such a nice devotee. I've been trying to do my sadhana, attend my classes, and do everything perfectly. And why is it that I'm going through this difficult crisis? And this can be one perspective to look at it, that how Krishna, what is the identity that Krishna is trying to helping me to situate? Because we may be doing everything externally perfectly. We may be coming from a perspective of false ego to a certain extent, may not be just false ego. For a practicing devotee, it's a mixture, but we may have some amount of false ego. And Krishna really wants to actually remove that. So he puts us externally, it may seem like a difficult situation, but Krishna is like putting us in a situation where we need to actually grow up and take shelter of Krishna exclusively, of our identity as a servant of Krishna and servant of devotees exclusively. And it's very excruciating. It's what we call as the growing pain. However, Krishna is our well wisher. Krishna is our, as Srila Prabhupada would sign his letters, you are ever well wisher. So Guru and Krishna, they are our ever well wishers. Whatever Krishna sends our way in life is his mercy. Externally, it may come as good or bad. However, all of that is just Krishna's mercy. To understand that, to accept it, and to live by that with in a graceful way in bhakti is actual advancement. So bhakti helps us outgrow the need to prove and to protect and to perform based on false ego. Otherwise, it's very obvious for a conditioned soul. All that we do is to, when we are doing it in from a material consciousness, we're just trying to prove who we are to this world, or we are trying to protect. We have a certain identity that we have created in our mind, and everything we do is to protect that identity. We what do you call, weave elaborate stories, and we create elaborate situations, intricate situations, and stories in order to protect that false ego. We create so many stories and tell so many lies to ourselves and to others just to protect that false ego. And then we also perform to show how great we are. And bhakti actually is asking us, like Krishna is asking us to outgrow this need to prove, protect, and perform, to become basically a servant. We don't need to prove, but we actually need to improve. As one of my mentors would say, we are not, bhakti is not to prove, bhakti is to actually improve our uh, identity as a servant of Krishna and the devotees. And we don't need to protect the false ego. We need to surrender, and Krishna will protect us, protect our consciousness. And bhakti is not to perform, bhakti is to actually purify our hearts. So it's a very personal process. It can be very different for each individual. And when somebody is going through something, they may have certain situations. And whatever is the state of a devotee, whatever is the stage of a devotee, Krishna is the ultimate protector of all his devotees. So most of the times we may say, okay, if this devotee is doing this, if he is not doing that, then what kind of a devotee are they? However, in any circumstance, Krishna does not let go of his devotee. There is nothing in this world that we could do that can make Krishna hate us. Krishna's love is forever, and especially when a devotee exclusively takes shelter of Krishna, even if they end up doing something so called stupid, still Krishna does not forsake them. And as devotees, each one may need to react differently. Someone in an authority position may have to punish someone externally in order to protect the organization and the others. And from that devotee himself, like from his bad tendency, we need to protect them. So somebody may, as an authority, may give punishment. Somebody may be a friend who's holding them in that time, supporting them and encouraging them to come out and grow and transform. So different devotees may deal differently. However, we are all trying to help each other, and it can be sometimes painful. But still, it's the whole process of bhakti is to transform our false ego into real ego. And that's what I don't think that is what Vasudevji is mentioning. He is purely praying to Krishna. I'm using it as a springboard to share my thoughts, because I didn't want to go to Canto 2, Chapter 5, how the material creation is created and how Pradhan is transforming into Mahatattva through the glance of Vishnu. And from from that Mahatattva in the mode of goodness comes the Mahatattva in the mode of passion. From that Mahatattva in the mode of passion comes the uh, false ego, Ahankar, in the mode of ignorance. From that Ahankar in the mode of ignorance, false Mahatattva in the mode of ignorance is called as Ahankara. From that Ahankara comes all the material creation. So he is indicating uh, that how everything is ultimately Krishna. Similarly, I am just trying to bring this theme out that everything that happens to us externally may be coming from a particular devotee, from a particular situation, from a particular person. However, it's all coming from Krishna, both the good and bad. And it takes spiritual advancement to understand, accept, and receive that grace in a graceful way and grow in bhakti. It takes a lot of strength, spiritual strength, and support. And the association is to offer that support to us, to each other. When Krishna demands each one of us to grow individually in our bhakti, it may not be always very pleasant. So we are here. The bhakti is the association is mainly to offer that help to each other. When Krishna is demanding us to grow, it can be excruciatingly painful. May not be physically, externally, but surely on the level of our ego. So, so that's one I would like to share some thoughts on that. And it's already 7:55. So let me touch upon a few things in a few minutes and then I'll open it up. So the verse 12 speaks about how Krishna is that indestructible source of everything. Even all the other things of this world becomes are actually destroyable. They all go away in time. Krishna is that unchanging source of everything. Similarly, the same in material life, whatever we hold on to, everything is going to go away. The only anchor is Krishna and his service and Guru and his instructions and the mercy of the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas. It's the only anchor, especially at the time of death. There is nothing else we can hold on to other than Krishna's mercy. So our life has to be molded in such a way that we can continue to develop that consciousness that there is no other anchor other than Krishna, and all the little anchors that we are holding on to in terms of uh, so many things, in terms of our ashram, position, money, influence, networking, anything, whatever we are holding on to, all those anchors uh, will not help us at the time of death. And Krishna is that one indestructible anchor. that we all can hold on to at all times. So bhakti is a practice of gradually replacing our anchors. We're holding on to so many other little anchors who are not at all anchors actually. So bhakti is a process of transforming all those anchors and letting go and holding on to Krishna as our only anchor. It's a gradual process, and devotees are that intermediary who are helping holding our hands, one of our hands when we are letting go of them for the temporary anchors, and placing gurus placing both our hands gradually in Krishna. So we need a lot of support, and that's the reason we have association, to help each other and be our anchors, to transfer our complete faith in Krishna. And the other point in the 13th verse is basically saying that how the material modes, uh, they are all the modes of the nature bind us, but actually it cannot bind Krishna. Krishna is above the modes, and Krishna can empower us to rise above through devotional service. Bhaktyamam no mamsho vibhacharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatite tan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. That the modes of nature can actually bind us, but not Krishna. So that is the thought that Vasudeva is praying, that the modes of goodness and the passion and the ignorance, they are set in motion by Krishna's energy. They are they are activated by Krishna's glance, by Mahavishnu's glance. But they are all set in motion by Krishna, but they don't define him. And similarly, Krishna is, we can also extend that and see the modes don't define us either. We are not tamasic person, or we are not the rajasic person, or we are not the sattvic person. They don't have to define us either. So, we are all currently being run by the modes. At least I can say for myself, the modes are running my life, but eventually it's the devotion which needs to power our life. So currently it's all being powered. Everything in this world is being powered by the three modes. That's why Krishna says there is no one who can be there without doing anything, even for a moment, because the modes will not allow them. The whole material life is being powered by the three modes. However, bhakti is to transform that power. So how can we be powered by devotion, devotional consciousness? That's the whole purpose of bhakti yoga. So where is my power coming from? What am I being powered by? So what is our fuel that's running us? Is it our motivations, or is it our desire to please Krishna? So that these are some thoughts. And no matter what modes we might be in, we all can actually turn to Krishna and take shelter and transform and rise above them. So these are some thoughts based on these wonderful prayers by Vasudev ji. And thank you all for this opportunity. Anybody would like to share anything, please feel free.
Thank you, Gaur Sharan Prabhu. Such a perfect class. I was having questions, but then you would answer them one by one without me asking. Are you psychic or something?
I could be a borderline psycho, but I'm not sure if I could be a psychic.
Jai. Okay, looks like Adipusha Prabhu would like to speak. No, hold it. Looks like Srila Prabhupada is inspiring Adipusha Prabhu to speak.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
We are praying to Srila Prabhupada what to say. And what an interesting class about the false ego, and the false ego, because whatever pain we feel, we are, eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. I'm not burnt by the fire, cut by the sword, withered by the wind, withered by the rain. We're untouched. But the false ego is we misperceive that we're in pain. And this interesting example of the traveling sannyasi chastising the devotee, and he was innocent. I had a similar incident about 40 years ago. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was visiting us in Cleveland, and he chastised me in front of everyone. And I had nothing to do with what he was explaining that was inappropriate. And it was so, somehow the Krishna gave him the intelligence to laugh, at that, as something coming from Krishna, and very funny. And it was very helpful. I was reading yesterday in the Bhagavatam, Narada Muni speaking to Mars Prachinabarshi, I think, and he's saying, people work so hard and they accumulate a bunch of Lakshmi and then it's plundered by their children. It's wasted in frivolous. And he said, because due to the false ego, we do not give what's come to us. We do not give in devotional service. And the verse that he quotes is, work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu must be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to the material world. Therefore, engage in service for Krishna's satisfaction and be detached and free from bondage. So the false ego is very binding and entangling and the attachment, and that's where the pain comes from. But if we just really surrender and give everything to Krishna, then we're untouched by whether it comes fame or infamy or success or failure, happiness and distress come and go, Anyway, I was listening to one class yesterday by Radha Bhakti Mataji, really sweet class. And one thing really struck with me. She said, we have to chant our rounds as if our life depends on it. And that helps us get free from the false ego. Chanting the Hasidic people say, bake your bread with burning tears. Give your whole heart to this prayerful chanting. Anyway, maybe that's a little bit of a scramble to share, but that's what I prayed to Prabhupada what to say. That's what he gave me. I'll offer it to you, and we hope it's okay. Well, glory to Shila Prabhupada.
We may not have false ego, but what if other people have false ego? How can we? I can get free from that.
Whatever. I had one experience, another chastisement by a sannyasi, traveling to New Vrindavan, an Indian, very nice, sweet, elderly sannyasi. And I went to him and I was complaining about this other devotee that I was working with. And I said, she's part of the management team at the RBC building. And I said, Mars, she did this, she did this, she did that, she did that, she did that. And he said to me, which just completely bleached my brains out. He said, Prabhu, I don't care if she has sex with horses. The point is, why are you disturbed by it? I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh, Krishna, save me, please. Why am I disturbed by it? Right. So, that's that person's problem, not yours. Does that help you?
Thank you. That was very graphic. Thank you.
That's what Krishna gave me. Where's the Srila Prabhupada?
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Gail, followed by Nityananda Chandra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. That story and Adi Purusha Prabhu, I really like that answer. That was really good. Graphic or not, that was so powerful. Anyway, Gaur Sharan Prabhu,
Hare
that
Krishna, Prabhu.
traveling sannyasi story, it might as well have happened to me because I don't know how I'm going to recover from that. It's like, so at this point, I need encouragement. How can I'm already a little bit afraid of Krishna, not maybe just a little bit, but I just don't have so much confidence that I can go through an experience like that, or any very calamitous experience and come out on the other side feeling in hindsight, oh, I'm so grateful that Krishna gave that experience to me because of how I ended up feeling so helped and nourished in my spiritual life. I just like that story didn't even happen to me, and I don't know how I'm going to recover just from hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you help give me some encouragement to face, life, knowing that Krishna can bring such an experience to me?
Yeah. Thank you. That's very honest and very helpful also. And based on my personal life experience, I think bhakti is not just between me and Krishna, because I know Krishna is too far for me. So I feel the easier way for me to actually be close to Krishna, especially during difficult times, is only by having good friends and good mentors. Uh, any difficulty, if I have ever handled well and have grown through, that's only by the mercy of devotees and my mentors. On my own, I might know a lot, but I can be very much overwhelmed when I'm in the midst of a very intense situation. Intelligence does not work, and all my facade of being a good devotee and the bright tilaks, everything actually fades. And it's just my friends and it's just my mentors who can actually hold me. And because I actually trust them as good people, not just as devotees, my trust in them, they have invested so much in my life when it was like what we call as like so-called good. In general, on a normal given day, the more I have invested in good relationships, and only those relationships have come to actually help me in times of need. All the other, even devotional relationships, but which are not deep, cannot actually help me in those times. I cannot begin to create deeper relationships at that time. If I had done it when everything externally seems to be so normal, if I have taken my time out and opened my heart and took proper association, then I've always seen that I could go, open up and reach out to them and see and ask. I'm really in midst of a difficult situation, and they can actually they may not give me answers, but at least I can open my heart and I have the faith in them, so they can tell me, see, this is Krishna's mercy. Sometimes it can be so hard when someone's life is such a horrible mess. You can't even open your mouth and say this is Krishna's mercy. It just at least my heart shudders when somebody is going through excruciating situations, extreme situations. It's very hard to just go and tell them without a relationship, oh, this is all Krishna's mercy, just tolerate. It's not easy. So that's why it is a service to create good relationships when everything is nice. It is not a detail in spiritual life. It is the foundational pillar of each one of our lives to create good, deep relationships with devotees. It's not an, oh, okay, maybe if I can do when I have time. No. If you really want to grow in life, you really need to have really honest, good devotee relationships. Without that, it would be very difficult.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you, Gaur Sharan Prabhu. Gaur Sharan Prabhu needs to leave. So Nityananda Chandra Prabhu Bhima will answer a question during the afterglow. Bhima, Hare Krishna, Jiv Jago, come to the phone. Darshan time, please. Cameras on if you can. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone.
Good.
You can obtain pure devotional service. I bow down to his received great awe and reverence, by his grace sunk across the ocean of material suffering, attain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is that my conscience is purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us a shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter at your lotus feet. Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Janitai Prabhu. Jai Arjuna Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Afterglow. Nityananda Chandra Prabhu, please speak.
Hare Krishna. Just a comment on the verse itself. So it talks about false ego. One second. Call just came in. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. False ego in the mode of ignorance. It creates the physical elements. False ego in the mode of passion creates the subtle senses, and false ego in the mode of goodness creates the sense demigods. And then there's a verse in the second canto which mentions these three, but there's also two other elements. You have the soul, and then you have the supreme soul. So it describes that there's three purushas. One of them is not a real purusha, but there's the body, the human body, which is it's called the Adi Bhautaka Purusha. Then you have the soul with its subtle senses, a soul in the subtle body, which is called the Adi Atmaka Purusha. And then you have the demigods who facilitate the senses, how they make them active. And so that's called the Adi Devaka Purusha. And they all have a interdependence upon each other. Without a body, the soul is not seeing anything. He's not perceiving anything. If he's in conditioned state, he's not seeing anything. Nor are the demigods without a body. The demigods are the lords of nothing. Because if they're the lords of the senses, but they don't have a job, then they're the lord of nothing. And then without the demigods, then again, even if a soul is in the body, but then he's not perceiving anything because he needs the senses to activate He needs the activation of the senses to perceive. So without the demigods, the other two are nothing. And then without the soul, then the body is nothing. And again, the demigods are the lords of nothing. It's kind of like you have the internet is like the demigods. They're facilitating the transaction. The TV on the screen is like the body, and the one who's watching the TV is like the soul. And so you need the internet for the TV to work. Well, if there's internet and TV, but there's nobody watching it, it doesn't really have a use. And if there's internet and a person to watch it, but there's no TV, then it also doesn't do anything. And so Krishna is described as he's the fifth one. He's the one that's well, yeah. Out of this three, is he's the fourth one. He's the shelter that has no dependence, where the demigods could be seen as a shelter, the body could be seen as a shelter, the soul could be seen as a shelter, but they all have dependence. And so, if you see the body as a shelter, you're a materialist. If you see the demigods as a shelter, you're a karmi. If you see the soul as a shelter, you're a impersonalist. And if you see Krishna as a shelter, you are a devotee.
Nice. What a wonderful breakdown. Thank you. I love the TV analogy. My analogy was zombie is the body without soul, and then senses without body is like a ghost, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Nityananda Chandra Prabhu. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
putting Krishna first, driving the point home that we depend on Krishna. One time there was like a gathering at my previous job, and I was invited, and I didn't want to go because there would be drinking and all that nonsense, and I didn't want to go. But they were calling me. They got loaded and started calling me, calling and calling and calling, and then I finally answered the call, and the guy was drunk. He said, "Hey, Alex, are you coming? It's so fun." I said, "No, I can't come." And he said, "You know what? This person is visiting. That is the supervisor of our whole division is visiting here, and you're making a mistake by not coming, because your career depends on this person." And through my mind, I was having this thought: my career, my life depends on Krishna, not on that guy. And I don't care who he is. But I wasn't bold enough to say it, but I thought it. So and I just ended up telling them that I was having a stomach ache or something, and I got away with it. I quit that job altogether. So Krishna saved me.
Yeah, Sadhvi was asking, where can you read about that? So second canto, chapter 10. It's the first, it's like verses 8, 9, and 10, 8, 7, 8, 9, I think.
Can you put that in the chat, Nitai Chand? This is Kali Yuga. No one will remember that. Maybe except Jeffrey Eckler, but he's not here. Thank you very much. Sadhvi Didi, are you satisfied? Sadhvi Didi has some nerdy tendencies. She wants to know the verse. Thank you, Sadhvi Didi. Yeah, this is a legit practice. It's rooted in Shastra. Okay, Adipusha Prabhu, welcome to the Afterglow. Gail has a question. Check it out. And she has Adipusha Prabhu. Adipusha Prabhu will handle it, Gail. Go ahead.
No, this time it's just a comment. Nityananda Prabhu, I was just so impressed with how you so quickly, you know, broke down and simplified, such a technical subject. That was, I mean, you did it so fluently. It was like really impressive. Thank you so much. Hare
Let me
Krishna.
say, oh, glories to Prabhupada. I'm only repeating what I heard from Srila Prabhupada and the context of the experiences that Krishna gave me.
Yeah, definitely. Krishna gives us experience that impacts us.
We're hoping that
Otherwise,
we're hoping that sharing it with you, you won't make the same mistakes that I've made, right?
yes.
And Gaur Sharan Prabhu was saying, the association of devotees is what lifts us up over the Chinese expression is "guten guanghuo." Guten guanghuo means to see the fire from across the river, right? A person across the river, if there's a fire, he has perspective and he's safe. But sometimes we're in the middle of the fire. We can't see as well as if somebody is outside says, you know what your problem is? They can tell us, So the Association of Devotees who are above the modes and outside of our direct false ego immersion, they can reach you just like a person who's awake can wake somebody who's sleeping.
Yeah, Srimad Bhagavatam is like this river that is protecting us from the fire of material existence. Is that poetic?
Very poetic.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. The Devotees Association ki jai. Nityananda Chandra Prabhu's sharp expertise ki jai. So sometimes people present a point and make it sound so complicated, like me. And then Nitai Chand presented it so nicely, make it sound simple.
He's brilliant.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah,
Krishna's empowering him.
jai.
Oh, the grace of the spiritual master.
All glories to the spiritual master. Okay, Gregory Prabhu, please unmute yourself and say Hare Krishna. Or maybe Lily can do it, or Theo. Let's see. Gregory. Hold on, we missed it.
Teddy with us, sorry.
Like,
Thank you, Theo. Thank you very much, Greg. Thank you very much.